Hello and welcome to my second edition of the Right versus Right Decision-Making Dilemma for Managers. Today I want to bring the discussion a little bit closer to the educational setup. And we're going to start off by looking at this example of my friend Mr. Hoodies, who is in top management in a school. A few years ago, an unpleasant trend began to develop at the school where Mr. Hoodies was working at. At least the situation was unpleasant in his eyes as a manager. It started with one female teacher conceiving and becoming expectant. The lady had a difficult pregnancy and spent a considerable amount of time away from the workplace. But now this became a trend. Soon another lady conceived. She also spent a considerable amount of time away from the workplace. One other lady followed. Soon it was another lady, one lady after the other. All the time, these ladies spent a lot of time away from the workplace because one way or another they were sick or they had to go for checkups and stuff like that. Women would understand better. They know what I'm talking about. You know, what made the situation a little bit worse or worrying for my friend Mr. Hoodies is that, some of these ladies chose to go for medical checkups at distant places when they had a choice to go for these medical examinations nearer to where they were working, which would have given them, a chance to stay at the workplace for a little bit longer. And what added to his worries was that the other teachers who had to stand in for these sick teachers were beginning to voice out their concerns at this growing trend. So Mr. Hoodies found himself in a dilemma. There are these teachers who miss work because of their health issues. He's got these students who have got a potential not to be attended to because teachers are beginning to voice out their concerns at the growing rate of absenteeism from work. And if you were Mr. Hoodies, what would you do? Would you point out to these women or to the whole, population of women in a school that being pregnant does not necessarily mean that you are sick? And would you encourage your teachers to try and break this trend? Or would you become understanding of these pregnant women, understand their situation and go easy on them, especially when you are a man, because obviously you can never really know what it means to be pregnant and what the pains of pregnancy are. As you can see, this is a little bit of a difficult situation. Understanding what these women are going through and going easy on them seems like the right thing to do. But at the same time, voicing out your concerns at this growing trend also seems like the right thing to do. So here, my friend Mr. Hoodies is facing a right versus right, decision-making dilemma. Let's go a little bit, deeper. What if these teachers are really sick? Wouldn't it look like Mr. Hoodies doesn't care about their health if he was to point out his concerns to them? What if one of these pregnant women was his wife? Wouldn't he want the wife to go and consult the doctor of her choice? Because at the end of the day, it is her health and her life that is on the line. On the other hand, what if these other teachers are not really sick, but are just skipping work out of exploitation? They are just exploiting the system. And what if some of them are just doing it out of ignorance because they see other teachers skipping work and they also, take advantage of the situation, and out of ignorance, they just skip work? What about the concerns of those teachers who are asked to stand in for these sick ones? What about the students? What is very distinctive about this conflict is it goes beyond Mr. Hoodies' values. but rather it touches on the values of the organization. Because whatever decision he makes, he will be acting in his capacity as a manager. Therefore, he will be representing the organization. And I want to point it out that the consequences of his decision could ripple far and wider, especially when we consider the fact that today's employees have got social media platforms where they can discuss far-reaching decisions like these. I know many people under his leadership were watching carefully and were ready to interpret his decisions. And his decision, whatever he made, would define to them what his values are, how much they can trust him, how much he is willing to protect ladies, or how much he is willing to use their vulnerability to attack them. His decision would help them as ladies to know how they could deal with their pregnancy issues and still leave an impression on their supervisors that they are still capable to get ahead. His decision would define fairness in the organization. Does fairness mean that everyone should explore every opportunity possible and maximize on their presence in the workplace? Or does it mean that managers should take account of the legitimate personal needs of their employees? Does fairness mean that as a manager you should sacrifice output to account for the needs of your employees? Or does it mean the employee can sacrifice their needs for output? And in this case, output refers to the students. Does fairness mean you overload the healthy employees to stand in for the weak ones because the manager accounts for the needs of all the employees? Or does fairness mean everyone, regardless of their pregnancy status or health status, pull at the same rate? The issue here is that managers have a task to make decisions, and some of them have far-reaching consequences than we can see. And these, decisions raised many questions, such as who are we as an organization and what do we stand for? What norms and values guide us? What norms and values guide how we work together and treat one another? How do we define ourselves as an organization? Me as a supervisor, who am I in the workplace, and how much of my values do I leave at home when I come to work? A few years ago, I never really acknowledged this right versus right decision dilemma for managers until I became aware of this dilemma that Mr. Hoodies was facing. And I've come to understand that these situations form what we call defining moments or wake-up calls. I want to implore you to take a look at such a time when you encountered your own defining moment, what alternatives you had, and how you resolved the dilemma. And share your views in the comment section. And remember to subscribe to our channel to follow up on our series of life's defining moments.